Hi there, my name is Nathan Johnson. I'm a third-year kinesiology student, and this summer I had the opportunity to work underneath Dr. Smurl and Joel Burma in the cerebrovascular concussion lab at the University of Calgary. The research I'll be presenting today is the impact of the menstrual cycle during lower body negative pressure cycling. Jumping right into it, what we know about previous concussion and brain blood flow research is that they've done a really poor job of including females to be participants within their study. They often claim that this exclusion just comes down to the complications which arise from the menstrual cycle and the unknowns of how that's going to impact results. When we think about how research guides clinical rehabilitation processes and we're excluding 50% of the general population, we can kind of see how that's going to lead to a decrease in overall quality of the research that we're performing. My research was a proof of concept type of study using an exercise modality that we would eventually like to use in a concussion-based population. But in a healthy population, we were trying to determine the links between different phases of the menstrual cycle and how that impacts our ability to regulate brain blood flow. We used lower body negative pressure to assess this question. And as you guys can see, it's a pretty awesome and unique exercise modality where we have our participant lying supine and cycling at the same time. We have a whole bunch of measurements taking place and that data is being recorded in real time. And essentially what happens when we decrease the pressure in that chamber, well, we manipulate brain blood flow to go from the brain towards the lower body, which stresses that ability to regulate that brain blood flow. We had 19 participants complete this protocol. We had 11 females and 8 males, all within the ages of 18 to 40 years old. And our only inclusion criteria was essentially they had to be safe enough to be exercising and at least 6 months removed from their last concussion. All of our participants completed 5 different visits. The first one was seen as a familiarization day, as not a lot of participants have done supine cycling before. And this was a maximal ramp exercise test with no change in pressure. And this was just to find the wattage associated with their peak brain blood flow. That wattage was then used for the next 4 visits. So visits 2 to 5 were spaced out a week apart. This ensured that we were gathering 4 different time points across 28 days, which is the average length of the menstrual cycle. And that spacing of a week apart allowed us to gather information about each individual stage of the menstrual cycles. The last 4 visits were also the exact same protocol. So each stage was 6 minutes in length and they began with no change in pressure. And then we subsequently decreased it until participants showed signs of presyncope or got to a maximum amount of negative 70 millimeters of mercury. We used transcranial Doppler ultrasound to measure middle cerebral artery velocity. So this is how we quantified how well someone was regulating their brain blood flow throughout the pressure changes. We also used end-tidal CO2 monitoring to measure breathing patterns throughout the protocol, as well as a finger photoplethysmography device to provide us with information about blood pressure. Also not seen in this photo, but our participants were all wearing chest strap heart rate monitors, as well as a 3-lead ECG to provide information about their heart rate throughout the protocol as well. When we're looking at the absolute data, essentially what we see is our males showed higher baseline and baseline brain blood flow values throughout the entirety of the test and across all the days. And our females showed lower brain blood flow velocities and more variability in that brain blood flow velocity. However, when we looked at the relative data, so that's just taking the absolute data and quantifying it per body weight, that sex effect is drastically diminished. When we're looking at the reliability, we see that our males exhibited excellent levels of reliability throughout the test, and our females exhibited good to excellent levels, depending on what types of contraceptive they were using. So interestingly enough, those females that were not on any contraceptive showed the greatest amount of variability. Where does that lead us now? Well, essentially, we saw that there was no differences found between any of the days, any of our measures in both of our males and female participants. This leaves us hopeful that this application can then be used in a concussion-based population. However, of course, further research is going to be needed in that field. Essentially, that's all I have to present to you guys today. I'd like to thank everyone who's made this project possible, Dr. Smurl, Joel Burma, everyone in the lab, as well as those who helped fund the project in the Alberta Summer Innovates and the Faculty of Kinesiology. Thank you so much for having me present today.